Dr. Sharma, you were speaking about how innovation has changed its definition. It's now pay for outcome. What does that really mean? What are the implications of that? And what is the pressure that puts in companies like yours?
Well, I think it puts a lot of pressure in the sense that, hitherto you had a medical rep who would go to a doctor and detail out the merits of a product. And they could be, for example, in India, a slightly different situation here, but we are in a branded generic market. So each product has as many as 50, 60 copies in the market. And a company which has a reputation for good quality and good processes probably does better than the others because the market is very fragmented. So right from a small company in a regional area to a bigger company. Juxtaposed with that, also the multinational, let's say, the big companies who actually have a reputation of research and therefore they bring out new products and they enjoy high credibility in terms of bringing out new products. But the end result today is being seen from the lens of what is it doing to the patient? Are we just paying for a medication, or are we paying as to what the medication is doing to the patient? And I think the payers are becoming very strongly converged on the thought that we should pay by outcome and not merely because somebody prescribes.
Sure. Pay for outcome, is it as important in the R&D that you do?
Yeah, sometimes in R&D you talk about what percentage of your sales are you spending on R&D. That's fine. But what is really important is what is the outcome of the R&D. If by spending half as much you get as much output from the R&D, it's much better. So we like to try and measure our R&D by what it is doing to our portfolio.
I think the opportunity for us to take our affordable excellence that we are very good at in India and take it to the global level is a very, very big opportunity.
Now we'll come to the 2014 projections and how things are looking. It's been a very, very tough time. Mr. Godrej, the last slowdown that India saw, we became the most cost efficient. What are the lessons this time around?
Innovation is very important, but I think also productivity improvement is very important. And I think in the last couple of years, many Indian companies have particularly stressed productivity improvements, which will stand us in very good stead. But if you ask me what's going to happen in 2014, I think a lot will depend on the election. If we get a government that is economy friendly, if we get a government that is willing to improve ease of doing business in India, I think that phrase would summarize all the difficulties we are going through. If we can improve the ease of doing business in India, India has the capability of flourishing.
Mr. Venkataraman, a lot of your revenue has started coming from overseas, and I think that's a big push within Larsen & Toubro. How much of the revenue the top line increase will happen from there?
A company like ours, even 10 years ago, felt that if we want to really leverage the true potential that we have now, we need to be global, at least in the region where we can go and work. And in other areas we can export products, we can be global everywhere. And second, so this slowdown in a way has accelerated the thinking part of speed of implementation. Because had the Indian market been very strong, of course we would have gone global, but it would have had a particular, delivery speed. So I would say the chance of building a second L&T International, if you look at, that's what we want to do. We want to replicate India in the region as L&T. So we want to really build the same infrastructure, the same type of support. Now we couldn't have done it had we gone half-heartedly. We were not going half-heartedly, but it would have taken a little more time.
So now that process has gotten accelerated. Right. So how much revenue will come from there? Now, about
see, today in as a company, our international part will be about 20-25%. But in segments, it may be 70%.
Sure.
But going forward, our target is to take it to about 35-40% because we still believe India will grow, and we can't but be a national builder also.
Okay. Avinash, what are the big challenges, the 2-3 big challenges and opportunities for Indian companies this year?
if you look at it, the clients are focusing on outcomes and not outputs. And they want that at the fraction of a cost than before. And that's a big challenge. I mean, for example, our workforce, we are making sure that they really are ingrained in terms of innovation. Because you can't do this thing by incremental improvements. This has to be innovative. We have to be able to see as to how we can disrupt the way we have delivered, historically. Digital, for example, is in our view a great enabler. One important thing that we are seeing clients do today is they are really honoring the power of execution. It's not just about consulting. It's can you execute this for me at a lower cost? Can you execute for me at a time scale that suits me?
Dr. Sharma, I introduced you saying that Lupin has been the darling of the markets in the last year. What can people expect from Lupin?
I think somebody spoke about execution. I think Mr. Venkatraman said an execution engine is very strong in Lupin. And I think that has been our success for a long time because, when I joined the company 10 years ago and I used to go and meet investors, everyone used to say to me that you are saying the same thing with Dr. Reddy says and Zydus says and Ranbaxy says. So what's so different about you? The fact of life is that at the macro level, there's nothing different about a pharma business. But you have pockets of niches like brand in US, a Japan entry, acquisition in South Africa, a conversion of portfolio in India from anti-infective to chronic and critical care, etc., etc. And importantly, we also infused a lot of innovation into the company. So to answer your question, the next 5 to 10 years, I think we are now moving into next orbit of innovation, where the risk-reward axis is shifting substantially, parallelly, where we are going to invest a lot of money in clinical trials. So you make a file of a generic product for $1 million or a $2 million. Now every product will take $5 to $30 million to do. So you're putting that intensity of technology into it, and therefore you're going to have a lot more innovation in the product built in, so that will be the next phase before we really launch ourselves into new chemical entities.
Avinash, I'll let you have the last word on this. How do you ensure Indian companies, which have learned a lot of lessons, I think they've identified their path to the next level of growth, how do you get them to sustain the momentum in 2014?
Well, I think, if you look at the history, especially if you look at the globalization that, we are a big part of, I think India had done great 20 years ago in terms of liberalization, putting the right policies in place, and kind of keeping away from it. Right? And I think things have worked extremely well. So the government has been a great enabler for that in terms of creating the single window and lots of other things that went along with it. I think listening to everyone out here, I think that is probably what I think the government has been very successful in doing in the past, and that's what it needs to do, is act as an enabler in that sense. Also, if you look at the globalization, the companies in India have a very significant opportunity of going to the global market. Right from the pharma to others as well, I think the opportunity for us to take our affordable excellence that we are very good at in India and take it to the global level is a very, very big opportunity. And especially if you look at the talent, I think the talent, as you rightly said, has to be trained to be very industry relevant. And I think part of what is happening from the Skills Development Corporation, including the NSDC, and all the industry groups getting very much involved in making it relevant is important. And I think if you look at the digital, which is going to be a big enabler for it, and this is the country which is digitizing, if you may, and helping a lot of these companies deal with the digital disruption, it's India. And we should be able to apply what we're helping the global companies in India itself.
Mr. Godrej, you've always been optimistic, and that's one thing that has held true even in the worst of times. What's going to make you smile broader by the end of the year? And what makes you optimistic on India?
I think I'm going to smile broader at the end of the year. I'm pretty sure of it. And I think we've learnt our lesson. We've learnt what's gone wrong, and I'm sure we'll correct it. I think the next government, whatever format it might come, will see to it that we don't repeat the kind of mistakes we've been making.